Welcome to Dan's On Site with Dan Dutton and Dan Goley, a podcast and YouTube show dedicated to all things real estate, delivering market information, interviews from all perspectives, and tips for everyone involved in or interested in real estate. We'd love to hear from you. dans@dansonsite.com. Welcome to Dan's On Site mini episode, second quarter office market report for Omaha, Nebraska. Of the 200,000 square feet of negative absorption, over 135,000 square feet is newly constructed, never before occupied space. In our opinion, this paints a slightly more negative impression of the market than what actually exists. Omni Partners and the rest of the CRE industry will be closely monitoring how office users occupy space going forward. Generally, there are two schools of thought facing companies as they consider how they will occupy space going forward. First, with more than 30% of the entire U.S. workforce having been asked to work from home, there is an increased comfort level on the part of both employee and employer in a work-from-home setting. Second, and directly in opposition to the former, people will likely require more physical separation within their personal office space to feel safe and healthy within their office footprint. Could COVID-19 have a net neutral impact on the amount of space companies occupy? Join us now as we speak to office expert Marc Siemers. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Dan's On Site, episode 2 of our mini episode series. This week featuring Marc Siemers, office broker, Omni Partners. Thanks for joining us today, Marc.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So today we're talking about the office market in Omaha, Nebraska. How did the market perform during the first half of the year, specifically second quarter?
Well, it's a complicated question, that's for sure. I would say the first quarter of the year started off really strong. We saw 3-4% rent growth year over year. And the turning point in my mind was kind of March 12th, halftime of the Creighton St. John's game, sitting at Cunningham's pub with my buddies, our current brokers, eating wings, watching the Creighton game. All of a sudden, halftime, the game's not starting. And that was kind of the point of reality for me. And ever since then, the market has become stagnant. And mostly because of pent-up speculation of office users. What is this going to look like when we come back? And I think the longer we're away from the office, the more comfortable people get from working from home. Managers get more comfortable seeing that productivity is still on the rise. People are getting used to this. So what's it going to look like coming back? So the office leasing has been slow, to say the least, over the second quarter.
I mean, it's amazing. It's the never-ending stories that change on a regular basis from these companies that they say, yep, we're going to come back full force May 1. Now here it is the end of July and those people still aren't there. People are starting to wear masks more. Some companies are now pushing to the end of this year or the first part of the year. What do you see? And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit there, but what do you see the rest of this year, as far as the market itself or the office velocity, or they're doing deals, or what do you see for the rest of this year?
Again, I think stagnant is the key word. But there are a lot of companies out there still succeeding through the pandemic. I mean, you've got logistics companies, shipping companies, pharmaceuticals. CVS just announced they're going to hire 50,000 employees. Walgreens is hiring 20,000 full-time employees. Telecommunications is very strong. Zoom is going to be opening a new headquarters in Phoenix, a very big one.
Zoom is
zooming.
Yeah, Zoom is zooming.
All the telecommunications have become...
The stock's gone up, I've noticed.
Right, that's for sure. Telecommunications, I think, has made the biggest leap over the last 3 months than it has in the last 12 years. The technology has been there virtually since dial-up internet. And it's gotten better, but now we're forced to utilize that. How will that affect the office market long term? It's still hard to say. I mean, we prefer to see each other face to face. We're brokers, we're social. We prefer to be out there seeing people. But I think a lot of people are comfortable working from home. So to answer your question, there are a few companies or office type users out there still growing, but the vast majority of people are working from home. So I go back to the word stagnant. There will be a few deals get done, but I don't think we're going to see the volume that we've seen in the past.
So there's a lot of construction, office construction happening in this town. I drive up and down Dodge Road every day. There's, hundreds of thousands of square feet of being built on Dodge right now. I think I would ask you this question, COVID or not COVID, but I think it gets more interesting after COVID. So how, with all this office construction going on, has that been affecting the market? How does that potentially affect the market going forward with COVID?
Well, so we're tracking, I think, 15 Class A, Class B offices under construction in the Omaha market right now. It's roughly 1.5 million square feet of office under construction. But with that being said, before any of that came out of ground, it was 80% pre-lease. So 20% of 1.5 million is 300,000 square feet of office vacancy that's left to hit the market. 180,000 of that is a pure spec building right here on 180th and Dodge. So you take that out, now we've only got 120,000 square feet of A or B office vacancy, and we track a 45 million square foot office market. So I can't do the math on that off the top of my head, but
forgot to calculate.
Realistically, I mean, the office market, to say it's strong would be pushing it, but it's still too early to tell the adverse effects that COVID has had on the office leasing market, because so much of the construction was pre-leased before it came out of the ground.
Well, there's sectors like retail, we were kind of touching on this a little earlier on a previous segment, was these pandemic clauses that are coming in based on COVID, and that's going to impact them on a retail side, to where if sales are impacted or if they have to close, there's those kick-out clauses, as we call them, as a slang word for reducing that. Are you seeing any of those clauses coming into the office market? Is there anything else COVID related and how it's going to impact directly from COVID or a pandemic?
I think that it's inevitable that those will start to sneak into the leases, but I would be lying if I was going to sit here and say that I've seen just a ton of those roll in, because the reality of it is, in the last 3 or 4 months,
those clauses are not.
I've probably had 2 lease executions since COVID has started, right? So in the 2 that I've done, no, I haven't seen those, but I would assume that the tenants are going to want protection. I haven't actually asked the landlords, how will you go about that? But I would assume that they'll have to cave on some of those clauses.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting time, and COVID certainly clouds the outlook moving forward. Marc, can't thank you enough for being here today. Tell everybody how they get a hold of you.
You can reach me on my cell phone any time of the day, 402-881-5035, or you can look me up on the Omni Partners website and shoot me an email at msiemers@omnipartners.com.
He's the best. You need an office broker, he's the only guy in town to call. As always, find us on Facebook, Dan's On Site. You can find us on all the podcast platforms, Dan's On Site, and of course, YouTube, Dan's On Site. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a general office question, you have a story about the office market, dans@dansonsite.com. As always, Dan Goley.
Thank you very much.
Dan Dutton, thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks again for joining us. Find us on Facebook, at YouTube, Dan's On Site. All your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. We would love it if you hit the subscribe button and also leave us a review. Reach us at dansonsite.com.